Hey, I'm Deborah Atkinson. Let's talk belly fat. And let's talk, is it possible to go from belly fat to a flat belly again after menopause? Or some of you may be asking, I'm not even there yet, but what about after kids? So if you're in your late 40s to 50s and you're going through probably perimenopause, if not at menopause yet, and then into post-menopause, I'm going to talk. I've got some notes here because there's some really important things we need to break this down. Here's how it goes. And by the way, if you like this, it resonates, subscribe down below and also ask questions, follow up with me. So what we need to know is what are the cause and then the solutions for your menopause belly fat? And one of the very first things we've got to know is that, is it belly fat or is it bloat and distension? So they're two different things, right? So if what you're noticing is your belly is growing and you've got that kind of pinch an inch on the top, and don't do this when you're sitting down because everybody can pinch when they're sitting down. Stand up and just literally don't suck in, just be natural. And do you have extra belly fat that you didn't have and it was sudden? That's really what we're talking about. So when you're in that hormone change, there's a lot going on and we'll talk about that. But I also want to drive home, you cannot spot reduce, right? You can spot tone, but what happens is we're not spot toning the fat, we're spot toning the muscle underneath. That generally will help then body fat lay on top of muscles. So you can see muscle distinguished right on my arms and my biceps and triceps in this line right here. But that just means that the fat lays a little bit more nicely. You're not totally getting rid of it. We need fat for good health. So you're gonna have a healthy range, which is somewhere between 18 and 28%. So as we get to 28, we're worried about you. We want to stay a little bit lower, but you and I have different places in terms of our body composition, the amount of body fat we have, where we are more comfortable and not. So for instance, through my entire 36-year career, I was training for marathons and Ironman triathlons. And when my body composition was at its best and I was probably my most fit, I was still at probably 24 to 26% body fat. That's really where I was most comfortable. Now, I'm not exercising as much right now. And I recently tested and my body fat percent was 22. And it's just because I've changed what I'm doing and my stress level's a little bit lower most of the time. We're all in COVID-19, let's face that. But it's got a lot to do with where do you ride and where are you healthiest. So in terms of younger women, the best way to describe that is, say when you were 30, some women can be at 22% body fat and feel great, high energy, and others can be there and just feel like they're not even getting a period. And that's just a unique to you situation. So don't expect that your body composition should be 18 or that's where you should strive to be. What you want to be is figure out what am I willing to do? What are the habits that I need to change to be healthiest anyway? And then naturally, where do I ride? And when I look in the mirror, because here's the thing, if you lose more fat, we tend to see it in our face before we see it in our bum. So you're gonna sacrifice one for the other. Choose carefully, okay? So something to keep in mind, we can't spot reduce, we can spot tone and strengthen those muscles. But if you're trying to lose that over the top, we're gonna talk about that. And then be sure that if you're saying things like, when I look in the mirror, I look like I'm 7 months pregnant. Or I start with a flat stomach in the morning, but by afternoon, I'm distended and puffy. And that's about your gut, probably your microbiome, your good and bad gut bacteria. And it's that you might be eating foods that don't agree with you. And or as you put in things, anything. So maybe you're even intermittent fasting and you'd say by afternoon, I haven't hardly had anything. You may have had coffee, you may have had, some healthy fat, you may have had other small things going in. And even those, if you have a problem, what your body's doing is messaging you. They're not working. So there are some other things that you may want to check out, and I'm not diagnosing, but SIBO, for instance, is small intestine bacterial challenges, and basically you've got the right bacteria, but they're in the wrong place. And that's something that you'd probably want to test and check out with a doctor. Dr. Amy Myers is a great resource for that. She happens to be in a group that I'm in, but she's a great resource to check out if that might be it. But before you decide, I need exercises and what will work, make sure it's an exercise and a muscle and fat based problem and not internal. And it may be a little of both. So ladies, for most of us, it's true, it is a little of both, because we're still eating things we learned 30 years ago were healthy, and they're not so much healthy for us right now because our gut changed. We're all a little bit stressed, potentially because of COVID, or because our hormones are changing, we're not in control. Things are happening with our aging parents and our young adult kids, and maybe in our own relationships. And that means we don't have the stomach acid we need to digest. So foods that we used to eat may not be digested as well. And you're gonna see some reflection of that somewhere. Gas or bloating, digestive issues like constipation or diarrhea are not uncommon. And I wanna make very clear, I'm not a functional doctor, but as a medical exercise specialist and a strength and conditioning coach, I've worked with women and men for 36 years, but primarily focused right now in the last 8 years on women who are in the middle of their lives. And we see tons of questions about this, that gut health changes and stress levels change our way we react and respond to things we normally did. Otherwise, it will change everything. So first, get a good handle on what truly is the problem. Is it internal or external or a little bit of both? And then you've got two different sets of solutions that you need to address. So I'm going to address the external ones right now, okay? So the belly fat causes. The reason for it, as a trainer for 36 years, is because of hormonal changes. So we can help you work with your hormonal changes and exercise more correctly. So two things to consider is those hormonal changes are like a drop in estrogen as you go through menopause. And that drop in estrogen, when it goes down, cortisol goes up. We're more susceptible to negative effects of stress from all sources. And diet is stress, going on one. Exercise is stress. Even a healthy dose of exercise is a little stress. If we use it appropriately, it works in our favor. But if we don't, we overdo it or underdo it. We don't get good results. A lack of sleep is a source of stress. Stress itself is a source of stress. So whatever stresses you, right? It's unique to you, not to me. That can affect your cortisol levels. Getting too little rest between exercise is a big one. So often we who learned way back when more is better feel like we have to exercise all the time to burn calories, to burn fat, and couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the more you're exercising, you may be sending your body that cortisol elevates. Your body says, oh, you're under threat. I'm going to protect you. I'm not going to lose any weight. I'm going to hold on to stored fat, because that's just a self-preservation from evolution. Your body is trying to support you. If you can calm, chill out, relax, and that might mean take a week where you're only doing yoga or Pilates, things you enjoy. If you don't enjoy those, pick others, but going for long walks, short walks, trying to get outside, spend time with your pets and your animals, things that release and reduce your stress level. Then we call that restore before more. I spoke about that in my TEDx talk, and if you didn't watch that, that would be also really helpful right here. But then what you want to do is look at, okay, I've restored, I'm good, my energy is back, I've even potentially lost a little weight, a few inches. Here's how you start. One of the best ways to exercise in order to take off that visceral body fat, we call it, that centered middle management, is high intensity interval training, but more again is not better. Your body needs a recovery from high stress, either high stress on the impact or on the intensity. So you may be saying, well, I'm doing my intervals in the pool. Can I do them every day? Probably no. You should do intervals some days, and you should do some like longer, lighter recovery swims other days. You should vary, between swimming and between biking and between walking or running up hills and Speed work. Even if you're changing the mode all the time, you should not do intervals all the time. So that again is stress. The mark before injury rates go up tends to be at about 45 minutes of interval training a week. So that can be 3 short 15-minute sessions bookended by a warm-up and a cool down, or that could be 2 of 20 to 25 minutes with a warm-up and a cool down. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you get strength training. So I'm going to drive this home really, really hard. And I'm going to say it again before I leave you. But strength training changes your lean muscle tissue, the amount of it you have. No other exercise can do it the way strength training can. So using dumbbells, you can use other props and tools like bands and TRX tools. However, nothing is probably as good or as much like life as picking up dumbbells, because that is much more like picking up the baby. That is much more like picking up the dog or the dog food, the garden soil, and lifting it out of your trunk. Picking up weights is much more like that. Doing exercise bands may be very appropriate for something that you're rehabbing or trying to prevent an injury from, but using dumbbells is a little bit more like daily activities of life, and that's what we want to get good at, not the exercise, right? So think about that. I know that dumbbells have been hard to come by since COVID, but keep trying. Keep going to your local Target, to Dick's, to Amazon. Keep coming back, because you never know, you might get in right on that window when they've got some back in stock. And don't be afraid to put out an ad, because somebody's got some they're not using and not planning on using. Poor people. But go and keep looking, because those are some of the most economical things that you'll ever have. And every person in your household of almost every age after they're a young adult should be using them. So strength training will change your body composition and your metabolism forever. HIIT will change your body composition and your metabolism for a few hours. Okay, so big difference, right? So by the end of the year, if I've been continuously and regularly, consistently doing strength training, I will have changed my metabolism far more than if I do HIIT, because HIIT is a little bit like cocaine. HIIT is like I have to have another hit, another fix to boost my metabolism while I'm doing it, and then for the 24 hours afterward, because then my metabolism comes back to where it was. Little by little, you may also increase it slightly, but never so dramatically as you will when you're doing resistance training and you reach muscular fatigue. So what do I mean by that? That means that if you choose to do 3 or 4 or you do 10 exercises, you reach muscular fatigue in each set that you do. So a set would be, say I'm going to do 15 repetitions. Then at the end of that, 13, 14, and 15 should be very challenging for me. That's reaching muscular fatigue. And that's what you need to do in order to have an impact on your metabolism. Because between that workout you did today, say it's Monday, and the next time you do it, Thursday, not Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday. So you've got adequate rest. The strength that happens, the recovery that happens on those rest days elevates your metabolism. Now you have a little bit more muscle fiber than you had before the workout on Monday, as long as you rest. If you only exercise, you break down those muscles, you break them down some more, you break them down, you will have less muscle, not more muscle. So you cannot forget that exercise is a breakdown on purpose activity, and that the brilliance in exercise is that as you rest between, now you get stronger. So you can liken it to, I can. So I'm a girl from the Midwest. I'm an Iowa raised girl and lived there until I was 49. We did things during the summer like walking beans, right? Detasseling. I did less of that. My older siblings did more of that. But you know, at the beginning of summer, when you're doing things like that, or you're working a construction job as a teenager, which my stepson did, you know, when you start doing things, you know, they're hard, right? At the end of the day, you're just like toast, like blah. But you know, a couple months later, you're stronger and you've adapted but you can't necessarily break down every single day. So you have the weekends to recover in that case. Here, you need to put those 48 hours between, because after we're 50, we need more recovery time. So your formula for supporting belly fat loss, if that's the issue, is first restore. So don't try to do more and burn it off and then say, I'm gonna rest after that because I'll feel better. You will not. You will burn yourself into a hole, and your body will protect you by storing fat, holding on to it. So your hormones either store fat or burn fat. They can't do both simultaneously. So if you stress yourself out, more cortisol, more fat storage. So make sure that you're getting adequate rest, you're recovering. If you're already exhausted, don't try to do more exercise. And then gradually, as you recover, you're doing shorter bits of exercise more frequently. So you might do a walk in the morning, you might do strength training at noon, and you might do yoga in the evening instead of trying to do an hour-long anything. And that's a smarter plan no matter who you are. When you're over 50, who has an hour anymore? And most of us would be exhausted and feel like we needed a nap after that. That's not a sign that you're getting in better shape. If you could take a nap after exercise, you're infringing on your adrenal fatigue, and you don't want to go there because it's hard to recover. It takes not only months, but some people years to get out of that hole. So fill yourself up right now. It's time to take care of yourself during COVID-19, particularly. So yes, can you go from belly fat to a flat belly? Absolutely. But you want to make sure, are you solving a muscle problem and a need for fat loss, or are you trying to tackle a bloat and distension kind of a problem instead with an exercise answer? So make sure that you've matched the problem with the solution and then give it some time. So remember that your body's always messaging you. If you're always exhausted, your exercise is really not working for you right now. Let's figure out something that does. If that was helpful, don't forget, subscribe to the channel down below so you don't miss a video. We're doing exercise videos. You'll see the Flipping 50 podcast. It's an audio only, so don't keep looking for the video. There is none. But that also releases here for you too. If this is more convenient and this is where you like to find things, you'll find them here. But if you want to go deeper, you're serious about your fitness and you don't want random videos that come out on YouTube, you want to go to flipping50.com, all words spelled out, and look at something like a program that takes you from A to B to C that is very organized. And there's always the Flipping 50 online membership. Right now it's open. It may not be when you see this, but take a good look at, do I have all my bases covered? Do I really know what exercise I need? Was it designed for me? All right, see you on the flip side.